Do you have a course in love for their teaching in the end of June, right?
Right, yeah. All right. We're live on YouTube. Here we go. Yeah, I have it on Kindle.
Okay.
So I will be reading from there.
Well, I'm going to read now. This is from Taking the Ego Lightly, but you can put up if you want for us both to read Healing the Unhealed Mind, either or.
All right.
But I'm going to read from, do you have that one too, Lynn?
Which
Take-
one?
Taking the Ego Lightly.
No, I have the audio of it, but I don't have the
You have the
book of it.
audio. God, I would love it if you send it to me. Or you can't,
Oh,
right?
oh, sure I can. Why not?
Oh, God, I love him.
That's
This
one of the
is,
first Ken
I have them on
Wapnick's.
CDs, because that's what I had years ago, and yeah, so because Taking the Ego Lightly is when he wants you to just loosen up and let go because none of this matters. Whatever's happening here is just phenomena.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It's saying the video unavailable on the YouTube, but we are streaming on YouTube. Let me go look at our um, YouTube channel and see what it says there. Oh, it says Sharon Slack reads Ken Wapnick. So yeah, I could get Taking the Ego Lightly if you wanted me to. It'd just take a second.
No, I don't want you buying it. No.
Why not?
Because I just don't. I think it's crazy. I'm just going to bring up parts of it. If each time, like I buy a lot of things too, but like even with the with what you did with the computer, everybody to me it would be better off if everybody would chip in because it's just not fair for one person to carry all the. I just feel it's expensive. That's all.
Well, not really. I mean, it's cheap. Let me look here real quick for anybody who is on to Amazon, which is where I get all this. Um, Let me see. VGO. Because I love that one too. I've listened to it over and over. Um,
It is really good. I mean, it's the last book he did, I think, right?
yeah, it's the
Mhm.
last that I know of, the last workshop that he did. Um, so yeah, $10.
See, so I bought his CDs and I don't have a CD player anymore. So I have a little one, but not a big one.
I have an MP3 player. Um,
Where do you get them? I don't
no,
even know.
it's just that's what it is. That I mean, it's MP3.
Right, the
And
MP3s are in the computer. They're not in the phone, though, right?
yeah, you can do an MP3 on your phone.
See, I just have to take lessons from you. I have no clue how to do any of that. Hello, Dove. I did call you to tell you I had no internet, but now I do. So there you go.
Oh, look, I'm buying it on, no, I want to buy it on Kindle, goofballs. No, it's all right. We'll get there. Oh, I don't see. Oh, yeah, there it is on Kindle. I just clicked on the wrong thing. Because it was saying available in a couple of days. I'm like, what? No, 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 no. It can be available right now with one click. Alrighty, read now. There we have it. Taking the ego lightly, protecting our projections. Cost me $9.
Still
Not,
$9. I mean,
yeah, yeah, but
I'm
I
a
mean that's
bookaholic. I have books everywhere in my house. It's all over.
yeah. I don't buy physical books anymore because I can't read them because of my vision.
Oh, wait, you have cataracts or no?
Oh no, I'm just blind in one eye and partially blind in the other. You know
Right, and
that.
that was the accident you had.
Yeah, and just my eyes being generally weak. So
What year was it that you had that thing happen?
what's that?
You got in that accident. What year was that?
2010.
Yeah, I remember. That was horrible. Of
Yeah,
course, you
it was
handled
pretty
it better
bad.
than most. I probably would have talked about it forever.
Well, I talked about it quite a bit, and I was, all the time I was healing up and having surgeries and things. I think I mentioned it plenty enough, but it's not like, I mean, it's not a big deal
Right.
if you know what I mean. It's just like, well, that broke. This is broken now. I can't give you kids anything. You just you just
Right.
break everything. And yeah, that's it. So,
I
um,
turn to the page one. Well, let's do it through. What I do is I jump around, and sometimes it's better. What do you think? You're going to put it on now, like
if you want me to,
introduction.
yeah.
Here's what I love about this one. It's protecting our projections, and that's pretty much what I talk about a lot. With whoever I'm on the phone. When we talk about we are unconsciously we are so what's the word conditioned not to believe that we are projecting all this until we are. So.
Yeah, let's see. I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, so this was August 2013 was when the last class that he taught before he passed away, projecting our projections, which is what this is. So yeah, you want me to put it up from the introduction or what?
Yeah, introduct. I just want to ask you something. Did Ken, like he had cancer? Is that how he died, or
Yes, he had lung cancer. Yeah.
he never smoked?
No, he didn't smoke, but Gloria smoked. It didn't matter. I mean, it wouldn't have been it'd be like what's his name that we all love so much, the comedian. He never smoked and he still got lung cancer and passed away. It just, that's what it is. It's just, that's what it is.
Right. Yeah.
You choose. This is the my way out. This is the way this is going to shift and change. It's our whole life, not just our life. Like today I get a parking space, tomorrow I get lung cancer. It's the
Yeah, we
same
don't know
way.
how we're going to die. We really don't. And
Right.
maybe
And the fact that we judge one thing as being better than another
that's a
is the
problem.
problem.
Because we're not even these people. The people, it was over the moment it was thought. Lynn, it took me a long time. I'm a very slow learner. So, hi, Dove.
I think you're a pretty fast learner being as you're learning it during this lifetime. So
Right. I didn't even think of that. It's funny because I don't know that we come back, but there's so much of this on the internet now, like, that we come back. And that's the I am that comes back. So if we come back, we're not going to remember probably.
no, that it's not, there's no person here.
That's
There's
why
no
Keith
person
always
here to
says
come
there's no
or to come
reincarnation.
back.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because Keith says that, but a lot of people, like I don't know, the one that Dove likes so much that it's our soul. I don't know. I'm forgetting.
Dakini?
What's that?
Dakini or is it a
No, no, I don't
oh
know.
Rob Swartz?
Yeah,
Your Soul's Plan? Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, really honestly, he's right on many points as well. The dream, as we all know, it was written long ago. The script was written long ago. All of this, Ken got cancer at the very instant of the tiny mad idea.
right. Yeah,
I broke my knee and ruined my eyes the very instant of the tiny mad idea. All that happened already all at once. And all we're doing is visiting the different timelines. All we're doing is coming in, this time I'm going to go learn about war. This time I'm going to go learn about mercy. This time I'm going to go learn about um, cancer. This time I'm going to go learn about, my child, passing away. I say that instead of dying. Why? I don't know. But these are all the timelines that I chose, and so I'm going to go visit them. And right now I'm visiting this timeline where I play a character named Lynn, and I have all these characters around me, Sharon and Dove and Mickey and all these other people that are part of my dream here. They're all visiting too and playing a part, visiting and playing a part. That's it. So when I leave this theater and I stop playing this part, I'll go to another theater and play another part. I'll go to another movie and play another
right.
part. As long as I am still needing to learn the lessons that I came here to learn, which is, really forgiveness of the world. And when I'm able to absolutely forgive the world, then I won't have to wander. I won't wander because there will be no place. I'll recognize that none of these things actually exist.
Yeah, it's all emptiness. But I'm saying when you drop the body, you think, well, yeah, the I am comes back, but not when. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's not, there's no, yeah, there's no dropping of the body. We never picked the body up.
Right.
There's no dropping of the body. It's all the story. And when I'm no longer a character in the story, then I become a memory of a character in the story. And actually, I am a member of the. Uh, I am. I am a memory. This is all. This is
Yeah, so
a
I'm
memory
looking
of
at it
Lynn and
now.
Sharon.
Yeah.
You know,
Here, I'm on the, did you put the introduction up or no?
I'm putting it up.
Okay,
Yep,
take
yep,
your
yep.
time. Take your time, darlings.
I just was. We were talking. There's Carrie. Oh, my
Hi,
friend.
Carrie. I love when people join.
Yeah, my friend Jeannie has that same background. Every time I'm on a call with her, I see that Golden Gate Bridge and I think Carrie's there. But no, it's Jeannie. All right. Is it up? You see it?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. The topic is protecting our projections. I know it sounds very dull and boring, but I'll try to enliven it a little for you. The phrase comes from What is Forgiveness in part 2 of the workbook. This one summary has 5 paragraphs. Paragraphs 1, 4, and 5 talk about forgiveness. Paragraphs 2 and 3 talk about an unforgiving thought. Here is paragraph 2 where the phrase occurs. An unloving thought is one which makes a judgment that it will not raise to doubt, although it is not true. The mind is closed and will not be released. The thought protects projection, tightening its chain so that distortions are more veiled and more obscure, less easily accessible to doubt, and further kept from reason. What can come between a fixed projection and the aim that it has chosen as its wanted goal? So, the way I see this is there has to be a readiness from spirit because spirit is doing it all. And if I think I've mentioned this before. Brent Haskell's books are like incredibly helpful for me because basically the script is he goes into the script is written and it's written so everyone, even if you're cold to this, your full awakening never stops. It can't stop because we are absolutely limitless. So, the awakening is that everybody's awake. They just don't know it. They think they're in their bodies, but I guess for some reason it came to us, and that's why we're here. Because, if I mention like to anyone that's not doing this that this is a dream, they're not interested. Why? Now, this is something I do remember Lynn saying to me years ago. The ego doesn't allow it. And that's what did you say that, Lynn, or was it just my mind making up another
I
story?
more than likely did. Yeah, because that's true.
Right, because it doesn't allow it. It's like it almost just grabs it and says, and then if you say to your mind, they'll say, "What's that?" Well, for me, that took years, and I still forget sometimes. What is clearly implied in this paragraph is the idea of purpose. The reason Jesus does talk about purpose is everything. When I see that the ego is just giving me all these stories where my guilt lies, the ego really created the armor that's in our minds. So it knows where to get us. So, like when things happen that we perceive as bad, that is all ego because there's nothing bad. It's always perfect because if we look back, this was over. You can't usurp God. You just can't. And why does it take some being so long to get this? readiness, I guess, because there can't be anything else. The readiness of God. Now, we have to realize, or I have to realize, that the undoing is a process, and it's an ongoing the rest of this body, mind's, time here. The unconfirmed, it's funny, I have ulcers in my stomach. So the ego will say, well, you might have cancer. Well, that's ridiculous because it always goes to the worst thing. But the thing is, I could get cancer and that would not be a complete, I wouldn't be a failure on my part. It would just be where I am in the sunset. And it's like what you say, Lynn, cancer is never really bad. It's a live organism and everything wants to live here. Everything. So the unforgiving thought is purposive. The attack thought, the expression of anger, has a purpose. It does not just come unbidden. It comes because it fulfills the purpose of making us mindless. As sentence 2 says, the mind is closed and will not be released. So here I jumped before I had said that sometimes, like, okay, for my husband, he went with me to Diedrich Wursach's retreat with Regina, and he got it. Like he said to Diedrich, I saw myself, the self, looking at me. But then he became not interested in any of it. He has no problem with me doing it, but the only thing I can sense from him is that he still has that closing where the mind just closes. And so he wasn't really interested in this stuff. And where do we get our interest? Well, there's a select few in our world that are waking up. There's always a select few because there is no time, but the time for them is set. And eventually, the tiny tick of time will come about for every being on this planet. So the mind is closed and will not be released. There's no way. Like when I heard Marianne Williamson say this was an illusion, that nothing really happened, I just couldn't stop laughing because I knew it was true. But I had a lot of stuff to clean up. Now, there was a time when I was in Awakening Together that I bought the book Awake, It's Your Turn. And that's also a wonderful book. But again, he's not saying what I think A Course in Miracles says, is that the time is set for each being. But what does that really mean? Well, Ken gives a whole thing on, living A Course in Miracles. That's one of the teachings that's on Audible of Ken's, that he's basically saying that this is a process. And a process means that every single moment we could be in either thought system. But why would we pick one that is all against who we truly are? To own what we truly are, I had a fear that something would be taken, but that is not what the Course says. Holy Spirit uses all our mistaken projections. So the mind is closed. So the problem is never my mind's choice for the ego. The problem is out there in you. That is what the unforgiving thought does. I am not the issue. Someone else, something made me angry. Something made me unforgiving. Something made me hold on to this grievance for decades. Now, I can promise you, because I have that neurodivergent brain, that if I didn't have this teaching, I'd still be talking about my ex-husband and what a victim I am. And what I saw is that our egos love it when we can be in pain. They want to be in pain. They want to suffer. So, Carrie, would you like to read? Or Dove? Well, Dove might have walked away. All right, Lynn, I'll just go on. The unforgiving thought then makes it possible to ever know that we are projecting. Right. Now, I couldn't even get that with my son. He wouldn't be in my dream if I wasn't projecting him. And I guess for me, I'm just following now the light. The light is what's moving through us. So in Awake, It's My Turn, Anthony says that really the process begins when you finally have your first awakening. And I had that in 21. But it didn't mean that I was done. You're never done, not ever. It's all a process. And what I did was I made idols, the teachers that I thought were great, different from other teachers. That's also the ego, because there's all saying basically the same thing. So the unforgiving thought then makes it impossible to ever know that we are projecting. The unforgiving thought protects projections because I am now convinced, especially when I get people to agree with me, that you are the problem. Of course. The victim story just goes on and on and on, right? I belong to a group, the Unity Church, and we're doing a book now called How Minds Change. It'll be coming to me soon. And it's an interesting group because if you go to Unity, it's no different than the Course, but they never say this is a dream. I would say out of all of the teachings that I have looked at, the Course in Miracles is the most radical because it's really the most true. It's radical in the sense that it basically tells you be non-compromising, right? But the basic thing I've gotten from the Course and Ken Wapnick is you have to laugh. You don't sit there and double dip on your ego. It's not even, but that's what I was doing. I was double dipping. I was thinking basically that I'm just not getting this. And I was listening to the wrong mind. The you could be a person alive or dead. It could be a public official, a head of state, the economy, the weather. It could be your own body that is responsible for your illness or for your dis-ease. The unforgiving thought protects projection, tightening its chains so that distortions are more veiled and more obscure. The purpose of projection is to keep the mind in prison. The mind then becomes enchained. I'm so sure I'm right. This is why I'm upset. And of course, we get people who agree with us. And it works perfectly. We are no longer aware that we're making this up. That awareness takes, well, I have to say I wasn't vigilant with the Course because I was following Regina's teachings and I have all the stuff that she had asked us to get. And the Course, in her gentle healing, she does the lessons. But I think she was just trying to be compassionate with people that couldn't get what the Course was saying. So she took the gentle healing. Now, I never finished her courses. I always ended up realizing that the Course lessons for me are the thing that works. So when I got back to the Course, that might have been 3 years ago, because I never left on Thursdays. I always was sharing with Dove because I always had the inner teacher always felt like the Course was given to me very early on in my 30s when I bought Marianne Williamson's and Jerry Jampolsky's book. Jerry's was Love is Letting Go of Fear, because there was something in me that knew that none of this was real. So I projected my grandmother. I projected telling me it was a dream. And I project anyone that hurt me was trying to teach me pain is not really belongs to who I am. Pain is only in the ego. But the amount of guilt in this mind or in all our minds is very dense. And it takes the willingness of spirit to just say, okay, I'm done playing the character. And that will take time. The unforgiving thought protects projection because I am now convinced, especially when I get people to agree with me, that you are the problem. You could be a person alive or dead. It could be a public official. So this is where Regis is here too. Good morning, Regis. So what I'm really speaking about here is that the unforgiving mind is our egos. And we have to look at that if you answer the call for this process, that is because you are being moved to do it, not because we're special, not because we've been God-centered our whole life, because I surely wasn't. But the thing that got me moving in this process so clearly was the 12 steps. I had mentioned that last night. So the purpose of projection is to keep the mind in prison. The mind then becomes enchained. I'm so sure I'm right. This is why I'm upset. And of course, we get people who agree with us, and it works perfectly. Now, I'm going to say something. Just I was interested. Zuma does Science of Mind on Saturday morning, so I decided to try it, and I just love the group. The thing that Spirit's directing me to is just fellowship. Period, because I thrive in that setting. Now, Ken will always say this is a personal path and you don't need a group, and that is so true. But I find it helpful. This mind needed it for whatever reason. I have no clue. But I just like the gathering because we are in a world where most seeming people feel this is their reality and that we won't go to heaven. Like my son mentioned yesterday about his father, that he has a lot of sin. And I said, no, there's no sin here. And then I realized that he's not going to get that, but he has guilt, Jonathan. I know he does, and so does all of us. Because if we believe that these people are us, we're in total guilt. And this is a guilty thought system, right? Because it's all attack. So this is why the purpose of projection is to keep the mind in prison. I'm so sure I'm right. Now, me being right was not seen until recently, that I wanted to be right more than anything else. So that's why I always say this is a process. And if you're still in this and you want to finish it off, you can't, because it's a process. I think when the body dies, it I don't know what happens, but the I don't know mind is really where we want to be. To know something is to be the ego. Because you don't know what's going to happen next. Because only if I'm going back in memory, which is what we do in the ego. So being right, and it's helpful when you hear Dov and Lynn speak of this. Because me saying I don't like something out there is me putting me in hell. And that could be a political figure. So we are no longer aware, as lesson 5 says, that I'm never upset for the reason I think. We think we're upset because we all have a long list of reasons that follow the because. What the unforgiving thought protects, what the projection projects, is our minds having made the wrong choice. Rather than deal with the guilt that inevitably ensues what we choose, the ego over love. We say someone else is guilty rather than let go of the individuality and the person self that the guilt ensures that will always be there. We blame someone else. There are no exceptions to that. Now, the Course would say that over and over, right? Jesus said no exceptions. Because he's really seeing, Jesus, that we all carry a lot of what the ego has done. It's where it puts its armor. So years ago, there was something in me that had no clue about this. I was waking up even in Philadelphia when all my stuff was happening. So it was the kind of thing that, at least for me, it happened. The breakage of the ego probably happened, with all of the stress in my 40s. And there was a period of time, just lasted 24 hours, but I was catatonic. And then I was so scared that I would lose my job that I went to work. Yay, Karen is here too. Hello, my lovey. Anyway, so what I realized when I was catatonic, what was making this mind get catatonic was that I had sent my son to 2 rehabs, and then and sometimes when Zuma talks to me, she'll say, well, does your son want you to share this? So she is right about that, because these are personal things. But I'm not going to say exactly what it was. But when I heard that it doesn't matter, because if he had relapsed, That's what I saw. I went into catatonia because that would have been the hardest thing for this mind. I took mothering as my purpose in life, to mother my students, mother people, mother. I was a sponsor, and I'm pretty much a nurturer. At the same time, I still have an ego that wants to be right, that knows what's bad. Where did Karen go? Did she get off here? Maybe she had to go out. All right. Um, so, our thoughts really nothing better than juicy gossip. Right. Right, Curry. Isn't that the truth? Drama. What I saw in this mind was how much I love drama. That's why the political scene was appealing, right? So, because it's all drama. Now, I have a nephew that is doing the course, and right now, you know, I don't know how he's doing it, and I'm not going to pay attention because I don't know what he's doing in the Course in Miracles. But the Course in Miracles is a book, I think, and this is something Ken Wapnick has taught me, the attraction to guilt, death, and fear. Yeah. Is that this book scares the shit out of all of us in the beginning. It really does, you know. And sometimes if you're not called to this deeply, it will be a very, very tough course because nobody wants to think they're not here. But what is here, maybe in the experience, is the seeming voice that we are all hearing, the voice of the inner roommate. That's the crazy mind, and then we have the right mind, which doesn't say much. It looks and judges not, and that's basically. And we are in the right mind when awareness, or you know, it burst open, and that happened in 21. But when I go back and I think there was something that happened to me even around the time that I was catatonic, I was teaching in in Abington Township, which is next to Philadelphia, and I was at a school, and I had been probably shocked at beyond belief. First off, everybody knows I had a pretty hard divorce because I was shocked at the time. But you know what's so funny? At the time, I was not afraid of anything because of my anger, the victim anger. But I wasn't ever crying about my ex-husband. I was more, he's not going to do that to me. And I'm going to, because he had gotten me a lawyer because he wanted me to get out of it and never know that he didn't lose the money because he didn't. But he lost it eventually because he has a gambling issue with the stock market. And he will trade $1 million in a day. So that was a little crazy too. So it was the kind of thing when the room went upside down when I was teaching at this Willow Hill school elementary teacher. I had to call the principal and tell her the room just went upside down. She didn't know what I meant, but I'm going to tell you right then and there, everybody was upside down except the seer. Why? Because spirit was breaking through. But to break through means nothing. This is certainly a process. So awake is your turn. I don't know if Anthony knows this, the guy that wrote that book, but he often speaks of some people don't want the awakening. Well, that's not true. If you're called to this, you will want the awakening. Now, I can't be sure that he said that, but what I'm saying is this is already over. We are being lived. There's nobody making any decisions on their own, not even if they're awakened, because it's a movie. And to awake also means you're still in phenomena, because you're still in the body. So I think it was Lynn that shared, she did, shared that, we need the ego to get out of here too. Like if we're walking and talking, well, yes, the divine essence is living through all of us, but we still have the egoic mechanisms in us. So, that's why Ken would always say he didn't want his students to ever really be upset because that was all ego. And you don't realize that if you don't get this, because he's saying here, like, we think we are upset because, and we all have a long list of reasons that follow the because. What the unforgiving thought protects, what the projection protects, is our minds having made the wrong choice. Rather than deal with the guilt that inevitably ensues when we choose the ego over love, we say someone else is guilty. It's just that easy. And we're all victims to that someone, right? There's two politicians that ran this past November, and there was one that I thought was more about love than the other. But they're still believing this is real. And if you believe this is real, there will be a lot of hate right now, because a lot of victim consciousness is the leader of our world right now, is taking away the freedoms of things that they need. Like, I teach in the schools, so what happens is during lunch and breakfast, some of these kids don't get that at home. They get nothing. So they're going to take that away. So when I go in there, there's a desire to just bring love and spread love and not talk about anything out there. But people in the schools right now are getting more upset with the sitting president, because he's taking away people's rights that actually, these are children. And children are just, well, like we all are, because we're all children here. So we're vulnerable to any meanness. But I have to look at this as neutral for one big reason. We don't know what the story and how this being is helping us. We can't know that. We can't know anything. So I come back to the fact that the beginner's mind is where we always want to be, where we don't know a thing. He's saying here, the thought protects projection. Tightening is change, so the distortions are more veiled and more obscure, less easily accessible to doubt, and further kept from reason. We won't question the distortions. How can you say I'm upset because I choose my ego? Look what this person ego did. I am innocent. Sure, I might have made a mistake or two, and maybe I shouldn't have said it in that way. I said it, but boy, if you knew what I've been through, and heaven help the person who says, no, I don't know, tell me what you've been through. Well, that would be me. I was probably at nauseum until I got into the 12 steps to tell people what a victim I was. And I stayed victim off and on in this process. Why? Because the victim gives us less guilt. But until the guilt comes up in the mind and we really see what we're doing to ourselves, it remains a process. So in A Course in Miracles, the term reason means right-minded thinking of the Holy Spirit's thinking. So Ken says, basically, you got to laugh because there's nobody out there. There's just nobody out there. Who could usurp God? So all our religions we made up, all our hatred. Ken is really good about politicians too, because he knows the ego is going, and Jesus is too. He knows the ego is going to hate them. Let me see what Carrie's saying here, because I can't get the chat up. Okay, let's see. 30 years later, and you're still telling me what you've been through. Right. How about 40 years? It's 40 years. Well, is it 30? No, it's 30 years since I've been with my ex-husband. 30 years. And, my kids are still working out the issues. And, they have commented that I'm different now. My whole thing is my ego gets in there and I don't want them to suffer, right? So I'll tell them, instead of honoring where they're at, I'll tell them, well, this is a dream. And that's not helpful. So when I go to this unity group, we're reading this book called How Minds Change, because they're also believing this is real. Now, if he takes the Social Security away, I think that there'll be a trigger there, but we don't know if that's going to happen. And I think if we look at it, that it's for us, somebody like, I'll give my son as an example. My older boy is involved in this thing called Trillionaires for Trump. I don't know who's at my door, so I am not getting that. Oh, Zuma's on. Yay, Zuma. Maybe you'll come on and share now, my friend. Zuma, if you're there, show y'all's face. I think UPS always like bangs on my door. All, what I'm doing now is basically wanting only God. And that's basically, there's Zuma. Oh, look how sweet she looks. Hello, baby girl. Hi, love. We're reading this together, so we would love it if you stayed on and read it with us. I know you might work today. I'm not sure. Anyway.
No, I'm here. I'm here.
I was saying to Lynn, like I did go to I love Ernest Holmes now too, because he is Science of Mind and the Course in Miracles is exactly the same, really, except the Course has the lesson. There's Zuma. Oh, look how sweet she looks. Hello, baby girl. Oh, I'm on a. That's a delayed thing, isn't it?
Sorry about that. That was the radio. I'm just checking the radio, making sure that it's
That's
working.
okay.
And I forgot I put on my mic. So so that's the new
Look, I
radio.
couldn't get on the Pal Talk, and that was frustrating today.
Yeah, so well, that's the new radio. So that's how it's going to be good. So anyway, I'm muting my mic. I'm going to go listen again, see if I can hear me now.
Okay. So reason has to do with right mind seeing. What can come from between a fixed projection that you are responsible for how I feel and the aim that the mind has chosen as its wanted goal. Once I choose my goal to keep my individuality, means to keep myself mindless. There is no way I'm going to break the hold that I have on my projected object. That is why we sustain our anger and our grievances and why we are so sure we are right. Now, about the world, which I mentioned I would get to. One of the things that I always emphasize, as many of you know, is how important it is to understand the metaphysics of the Course. Okay, what he's saying here is it is not a Course in Miracles if you do not recognize that the foundation of forgiveness, which is its central teaching, rests on rests on the belief that the world is an illusion. What Jesus does in his Course is go back and forth, sometimes even in the same sentence, between the metaphysical view of the illusory nature of the universe and the illusory nature of our individual projections, because they are the same. Thus, at the same time, I tell people they really have to understand the metaphysics. Now, how did I really learn the metaphysics? I really learned it from Gather, but I didn't really practice until recently, the metaphysics, because I had still wants, and as long as I want something outside of me, that's going to do that. And I had wants. I want, of course, it's very clear. If you want anything in this world, you'll suffer. So the daily work is questioning not the original projections, which I will talk about, but your individual projections. It means truly looking at lesson 5. I am never upset for the reason I think, and applying that each and every time you become upset during the day. That is what it means to do the Course. All right, who would like to read the substitute reality? Lynn, you have to turn to that now.
I'll read.
Okay, she hasn't moved it yet, but I would love it if you read.
Is this on Kindle so I can find it too?
Yeah, it is on Kindle. It's a great book. It cost Lynn $9 today. I've had it because, Wapnick is like probably my key teacher too. It comes down to it because but again, you are my teacher too, Zoom, and so is Lynn.
We are all each other's teachers.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're
we
right.
are each other's teachers.
Yeah. So anyway, Lynn, did you get the substitute reality on here yet?
I will. Oh shoot! My dog got a hold of something.
We can't. Oh, the substitute reality. You take that.
I got it. I'm reading.
Yeah, so you take that.
You better read. Oh, I thought you asked me to read.
I did, because I have to just make one quick call too. Can you just read?
Okay, here I go. The substitute reality. What I want to do next is turn to some passages in the text that I don't usually cover. but that are relevant to our topic. First, we will go to chapter 18, section 1, paragraph 1. I often read paragraph 4, which I'm going to start with, but I want to continue and read paragraphs 5 and 6, and probably a couple of lines in paragraph 7. Maybe I'll read the whole section. I don't know. Anyway, I'll start with that because I want you to understand that the world is the projection of all of our projections. No, and all of our little projections are found within that original projection. Let me reread that. I will start with I want you to understand that the world is the projection of all of our little projections. I'm still not reading that right. I want you to understand that the world is the projection, and all of our little projections are found within that original projection. I don't want to talk about the Course's view of time, other than to say there is no linear time, which means that the original projection is occurring right now. But we think it occurs when we project our guilt onto someone personally. That projection, which is, I was just reading in the section finding the present, by the way, in the Course, and it's saying the same thing. That projection is just a fragmentary shadow of the original projection that we are all constantly doing. We are always making the world right now because there is no past. But again, you do not have to fully grasp that. I get it. This moment is the only moment that is. Now. We say later, but when later comes, we call it now. We say tomorrow, but when that moment comes, we call it now. So that's really what it's saying. It's always now. What is important is to understand that is the underpinning. That's why the Course says that when you totally forgive one person, you have forgiven everyone, from Workbook 108. It is always the same error. We begin now with paragraph 4 of the section, The Substitute Reality, from chapter 18. And Carrie wrote, tomorrow is today. Yesterday. Yes, tomorrow is today. Yesterday. That's funny. Chapter 18, section 1, paragraph 4, sentences 1 and 2. You who believe that God is fear made but one substitution. It has taken many forms because it was the substitution of illusion for truth, of fragmentation for wholeness. That is the original mistake of taking the tiny mad idea seriously. Most of you are more than familiar with the line, into eternity where all is one, there crept a tiny mad idea at which the Son of God remembered not to laugh, from chapter 27. The problem was not the thought of separation. The problem was we took it seriously, which meant in the original moment, we listened to the wrong voice. We listened to the voice of the ego instead of to the voice of the Holy Spirit. That's the problem. And on top of that, I'll add that we're always talking, I don't, but people are always talking about my ego, my ego, my ego, my ego, my ego, my ego. And the Course teaches that only your allegiance to it makes it real. Only your allegiance to it gives it any power. The Course and Ken continues. The ego never laughs unless it is a derisive. Wait a minute. Derisive? I don't know that word. It is a derisive laugh. The Holy Spirit laughs only because the original thought is so preposterously silly. How could part of perfect oneness wrench itself from oneness? Okay. And that word, thank you, Lynn, derisive, and I may not be pronouncing that right. It might be derisive, but I think it's derisive. It means expressing contempt or ridicule. Derisive means expressing contempt or ridicule. So I'll go back and read that sentence again. The ego never laughs unless it's showing contempt or ridicule. The Holy Spirit laughs only because the original thought is so preposterously silly. How could part of perfect oneness wrench itself from oneness? The part can't pull itself from the whole. It's like having a pie. Unless you cut it, I'm using that as a tangible example, but unless you cut a piece of the pie from the rest of the pie can't be separate. But in reality, capital R reality, you can't cut a piece of the pie. Even the piece of the pie is still the pie because it's connected to everything around the pie, all its ingredients, the person cutting it, the air that it breathes, the life that it has. It's all one. It's called a universe. It's one word, universe. So how could part of perfect oneness wrench itself from oneness? Everything that followed from that, which is right in this instant, has to be preposterously silly also. So the Holy Spirit's response to everything, as is Jesus' response to everything, is always that sweet smile that says, you're upset over nothing. As I always say, it's never the thing. It's always what you think about the thing. It's never the thing. I don't know you. I know what I think about you. And what I think about you might be wonderful in one moment and might be horrible the next. But that changes. But the Christ is changeless. I was just reading this. I'm telling you, and Finding the Present in chapter 13. Anyway, that, by the way, is how we know that the Gospels were never written by anyone who really knew Jesus. Nowhere does it ever say he laughed. Nowhere does it ever say he smiled. Read it. Read it in the original Greek, Hebrew, or Aramaic. You won't find it. Why? Because the writers of the Gospels took the ego seriously. Therefore, there Jesus had to be angry, anguished, and sad. He had to weep, to suffer, and to make people feel guilty, which unfortunately he did. He never smiled. That's how we know it's the wrong book. It may be the right book about the right ego person, but it's certainly the wrong book about the right person. See? Again, it's never the thing. It's always what we think about the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So the problem at the beginning, this original substitution, was substituting the seriousness of the ego for the sweet, gentle smile of the Holy Spirit. Should I continue, Sharon, or you're back?
I'm back. Well, we
All
have
right.
to stop. Well, we stop and I was
Yeah.
back right away. I told her I
Okay,
was going to.
I'd like to say something here real.
Yeah, and then we're going to
Yeah.
go to the next teaching. The next teaching is never forget to laugh.
Never forget to
Right,
laugh. Yeah.
yeah.
So, what is so remarkable about this whole workshop, and I just sent it to you all, so you should have,
Oh, that
hopefully,
was nice.
you'll receive the link with that that whole workshop in a folder. So hopefully
Thank
it
you.
works for you. So anyway, what is really beautiful about this whole thing, that this is how also we know the state of mind that Ken was in at the very end, because this came about, it's this last workshop. I think he did it in, I don't remember, November, August, something, before he really had issues with cancer, and he passed away in December. This was the last workshop that he did. And throughout this workshop, you will hear him saying, sweet, gentle smile, silly, silly little thought, silly idea, sweet, gentle, this is where he was at. He had come to this place where he was recognizing the sweetness, the goodness of the um, creation of his life, of what he was. And it's just so beautiful. And I could just see him up there on that stage. He was so thin. And that's why Ozzy called me up and said, we got to go see Ken because he's not looking good. That when we all went out to Temecula, went out there to see him because she was so worried that she would never see him again. because he was her first teacher back in New York. So, and he was it was so sweet. He was so happy to see her, and such a loving person. But this particular workshop, when you listen to it, and you will listen to it because I just sent it to you, you will hear that gentle, loving sweetness, joy. You just hear it. And he's just begging us. At one point in the workshop, he talks about the different versions of the course and who published this and that, and all the lawsuit business and everything. And he's like, who cares? What is it? That's nothing. Just all Jesus is doing is just smiling at that. He's just a sweet, sweet, gentle being who's just here smiling and in joy at your being. And this is what I strive to connect to, is that sweet, gentle, loving being that Ken was, that same kind of a being. Uh, I mean, he definitely was a saint, and I do not imagine that he's back here wandering the streets of Brooklyn right now in some other form. I absolutely believe that he is amongst the angels watching over us. Of course, that's all symbolic. But anyway, I wanted to thank you, Sharon and Zoma and everyone for coming and hanging out and listening and. Uh, Let me see if is this a good place to put a marker? Yeah, because we'll start back here next week. And also, I just want to let you know that I'm still working on the radio. The radio link is working. It works really well, as you could tell when I accidentally clicked it on when you were speaking. I think it came through pretty loud and clear. The only thing that doesn't come through on the radio is me. So when I'm talking on my microphone, it doesn't come through on the radio that I know of. I'm going to check it right now after I'm done speaking. But I think I'm going to go ahead and close out the Zoom or the YouTube. Did anybody have anything else that they'd like to share before we do that, Sharon?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close